Hello, good day. I am but one of your hosts today, Amala Panobi.
I am but two of your hosts, Will Witt. We are directly live from Mumbai.
Yes, Mumbai, Nepal, all over India.
Is Nepal's not in India?
It's adjacent, you know.
Yeah.
It's India adjacent.
Right.
We were like really going on a limb with this one, and you totally just blew it.
Good job,
Wait,
Amala.
Taylor, you didn't even give us your Indian accent.
You ruined it for all of us.
We can no longer do this.
Because I said Nepal. Anyways,
Back
guys.
to your arranged marriage.
Back.
Just go.
I'm just going to keep going. We have many stories for you today, a couple of which are quite serious, actually. So let's get right into them. The first one, you may have heard of this. I'm sure if you're running in the scape of politics right now, if you are on the internet whatsoever, you've heard about this story. First and foremost, it is Any Ngo being attacked by Antifa. And this is a very recent development, a very scary development for journalism. Any Ngo came out on Twitter yesterday and talked about this story, about him being attacked by Antifa members. He had just recently returned to Portland, and he got a very, very warm welcome, as we're going to find here. I'm going to show you his sort of Twitter thread talking about this incident here. So, no journalist in America should ever face violence for doing his or her job. Yet on Friday, May 28th, Antifa tried to kill me again while I was reporting on an ongoing protests and riots in Portland, Oregon. And let's see, for the new chapter of his book, Unmasked Inside Antifa's Radical Plan to Destroy Democracy. So he was reporting on Antifa for this book and was subsequently attacked. He says, I was chased, attacked, and beaten by a masked mob, baying for my blood. Had I not been able to shelter, wounded and bleeding inside a hotel, where they beat the doors and windows like animals, there is no doubt in my mind that I would not be here today. Their words, like their actions, speak for themselves. And a lot of people have come out on Twitter, members of Antifa, self-identified leftists, saying that they want Any Ngo dead. They want him gone. They don't care for his sort of journalistic integrity, and they would be happy to see people like him taken off of the earth.
This is proof for all of you leftists who say Antifa's just an idea. It's
Right.
not just an idea. These are real people. These are people who organize themselves. I did an interview with Gabriel Nadales a couple months ago. Taylor was there, and we talked to him because he was a former Antifa member and then became conservative and outspoken anti-Antifa member. And he talked about all of the different sects of Antifa that there are across the country. I mean, there's one in Austin, there's one in Portland, there's one in all sorts of different cities where they set it up, they have events, and they say, we're going to go to this place now, and we're going to recruit these people to come and destroy this. Like, they plan these things, okay? These aren't just a bunch of random leftists with Molotov cocktails that show up somewhere. These are people with a plan who come and say, we are going to destroy something today. That is what Antifa is about. Antifa is built on the fact that they want to destroy things. And what is ironic, I mean, the fact that they're called anti-fascist when essentially they are the fascists. Sure, you guys have heard that one before.
Right.
But they are a terrorist organization and should be rightly named so.
And he goes on to talk about something, and he says something that's really important that we need to touch on in this Twitter thread here. He said, Antifa wants me dead because they document what they want to stay hidden. The attacks against me and threats on my life are retribution for my work as a journalist, recording the tactics and true ideology of an extremist clandestine movement that relies on deception and regards the truth as the greatest threat of all. They want the right to hide their identities behind masks and erase records of their arrests and alleged crimes. They want me dead for capturing these things and reporting on them. But it is the right of every journalist, protected and preserved by the founding fathers, to report freely without fear. And I think that's something that we're forgetting right now, because a lot of people, especially on the left, are brushing this off. They say, well, Any Ngo reports hate speech. He doesn't subscribe to my sort of ideology. He doesn't subscribe to my beliefs. So I'm glad to see him get beaten in the streets. He should be threatened. He should feel scared to report the truth. But luckily, this man is not backing down, and I want to commend him for that, because right now we live in an age where there is essentially no journalistic integrity. There are plenty of bad journalists, especially on the left, who will come out and post nothing but fake news and lies, and there is no accountability for that sort of reporting. We've seen it now with everything that's happened behind the COVID-19 hysteria. Now we're rolling back on that because we're getting true facts of which the journalist did not report on in the beginning of time. And now we have people who are good journalists like Any Ngo simply trying to go out into the field, a very dangerous field, and report the truth, and he's being attacked without accountability.
Yeah, I have to say one thing. I think that if you are going out there to Antifa and you know that they hate you, you have to expect violence. I will say that. Like, if you're going out there, you know they're going to be violent towards you. That doesn't mean that they should, but you do expect it, right? So you want to do everything that you can in your power to be prepared. It's like people like old Vice News documentaries and stuff that they used to do, like going around like the jungle and drug cartel, stuff like that. And like those are dangerous places. Like, you got to be really prepared if you're going into a place like that.
Right.
I don't know everything that happened with Andy's setup and all that about being prepared, but I just hope that he was, because obviously this has happened before. These are very dangerous places, and we want this guy to be safe when he's going in and talking to these people. But no one should have to fear for their life when they're going and journalizing on the things that are going on in the world. I mean, I do man on the street videos and stuff like that. That's nothing like going into, Portland Antifa riots to do stuff. But even when I do stuff like that, there's like a degree of fear a degree of fear and violence that I could see happen by some of the leftists who I talk to, like even at that event I did in Colorado, where I go and I'm giving a speech and people come and destroy the event. They're threatening the people there. They're flipping tables. They're saying horrible things to me. Like, these are violent people. And so we have to be able to not just say, I have to be protected as a journalist. We have to say we are ready and knowing that these people are going to be violent. How can we best protect ourselves from that?
Right. But what does that say about the state of journalism, or the state of lawlessness in America? That journalists can't go to. This is the United States. It's not some like jungle in Latin America where the cartel controls it. It's the United States of America, and these people are taking over our cities, and they're being allowed to because the media and people who agree with them or choose to turn a blind eye just ignore it.
Right. I'm not saying that people shouldn't go report on it. People should, for sure, be going out and reporting on it. Like, you need to be brave, just like we were talking about yesterday in that segment with the girl speaking. Like, you need to be brave and go into uncomfortable situations to, like, expose what's actually going on.
Right.
I guess I was more just saying that, yes, we have to expect that it is going to be dangerous. We know that it's going to be dangerous going into these places, so we want to be responsible as much as we can.
Right. And as of late, there's been one person arrested in the attacks that were perpetrated against Any Ngo. And if you watch the videos, I will not show them here today on his Twitter, but there are videos of him sort of cowering into a hotel here in Portland, Oregon, and people just mobbing the hotel, trying to break down the windows, trying to get in past security, and to essentially kill him. They threatened multiple times throughout the video that they do want to take his life. And obviously, Antifa does not represent all of the left. It represents a radical subset of the left. But Antifa right now, it's very easy to make the comparison between Antifa and radical Islamists. It's very, very clear here. Look at this attack on a journalist who is just simply trying to report the truth, trying to go within this system and tell the American people what is going on. And obviously, it's not a tantamount comparison to what has happened at Charlie Hebdo, but you can see the sort of comparison there of people subscribing to this ridiculous leftist ideology, this leftist religion, so much so that they can't even take one person, one journalist criticizing what they do and what they have to say. And it's exactly what happened to the people over at Charlie Hebdo who were publishing just satirical cartoons and were attacked by radical jihadists. It is not a difference. There's no difference.
You see, this is how the left wins, because the left are willing to do things that conservatives won't. I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm just saying that's the frank truth of it. That leftists, Antifa specifically, are willing to go out there and hurt people and
right.
kill people and destroy people by any means necessary without any sense of morality about it. And conservatives aren't willing to do that. Conservatives do not want to do that. So we're playing on uneven ground because conservatives and leftists do not fight the same way. And so that makes it very tough to win. So that makes it, the stuff that Any Ngo is doing, people like Elijah Schaffer, Jorge Ventura, like other of these journalists who go out to these kind of things, their work is so important for exposing it. And I think that most normal people, even if you're not political, but you saw these Antifa people, no matter your political affiliation, you'd be like, these guys are crazy. These guys are psychopaths going and doing this. So I applaud these guys for doing what they do.
Right. And again, Andy, kudos to you for staying strong, continuing to report in the face of these very, very violent threats that are ongoing throughout your profession, which should be a profession that is free from violence and free from persecution. So that takes us on to our next story. Now, a video has come out of a Cornell professor talking about her vigilance in teaching kids to be anti-racist and exposing the white college students in her class to their fragility and to their privilege. So a video has come out of her in a Zoom conference with some other teachers, and I want to highlight that for you all and play this for you today. So let's take a look.
Film, if I want to teach them about whiteness, obvious if I say, oh, we're going to screen a clip of Birth of a Nation. Oh, this is so racist, but I'm not attached to this, even though, the building blocks of cinema we're scraped together with this. I'll show them Miracle. I'll show them the hockey movie Miracle so they can see how whiteness is tied to nationalism. And then I'll pair it with Dyer's White, and then I will mostly fade to the black. And I do mean I will just sit back and let the students, and this is the privilege of the kinds of students who are in the class, but do the work of auto-correcting each other and then being like, I see it here and I see it everywhere. And so that kind of thing is when I point out, oh, here is a very white thing. Now, do you see all the other white things?
Wasn't Miracle like historically accurate of the 1980s? What was it? The
U.S. hockey team.
Yeah. Wasn't it like historically accurate with the players? Like they're not going to put black players into the movie just to appease people. Like this is what really happened. Those people were white who played hockey.
Right.
First of all, hockey's a super white sport. The majority of people who play hockey are white. Why change that? Like why change that for a movie just to appease other races? That doesn't make any sense. It's like changing like the NBA to a ton of more white guys. That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Like none of them, that doesn't make any sense at all.
They want to see racial representation until it encroaches on the areas of our society of which they already control. It's like, it has nothing to do with anything. And listen to this teacher, this professor, who's plotting this sort of psychological warfare on her white students of, oh, let me show all these students. And, subliminally, if they see white, and I teach them that whiteness is linked to nationalism and whiteness is linked to evil, then they'll start to see it in the real world when they see other white people. It's like planning a race war within your classroom.
There are like tons, and speaking of like the sports movies and stuff, there are tons of other good ones that are about black people. I mean, there's the Coach Carter, a lot of the other ones, the
42.
Yeah, right. Like there's so many that like have that kind of representation in it. But then you point out one movie that is about a hockey team in the 1980s that is trying to be historically accurate when it comes to the players, and then it's all hell breaks loose, and you're not allowed to do that. This movie was made years and years ago. Why are you now bringing this up? It's because you're using it for your own selfish gain to make it seem like the world is so racist. The world is not that racist.
I know.
That's just.
She's literally sitting here curating her own agenda to push to these students. She's literally curating a world of which the United States really does not represent. We are not a racist white supremacist country. But she wants to plot that and plant that seed within her students' minds in a class of which she has no right to do so. But anyways, let's keep listening.
Wait, let me say one thing. It's funny to look at all the other people at these Zoom things that we say. Like we did that other Zoom video last week.
Right.
And like all of the people who are in there just like, of course. Yeah, that's right.
You're doing the right thing, sweetie.
Yeah, stupid white people.
I know.
Well, it's the same thing she was talking about with the way that she had her class react to the video. She said that she just sits back and let them correct each other for their whiteness. It's like what kind of she's fostering this environment where you get brownie points or like woke points for saying, oh yeah, this is real. You're racist for being complicit in this story or not realizing how racist this movie is because it's got too many white players or whatever the thing is. And it's the same thing going on with the professors on the screen.
Yeah, it's just lucky for us that we get to, see the man behind the curtain. We get these videos exposed to us because if we didn't, everybody would have no clue that this is happening behind closed doors. Let's see what she has to say.
And then they actually get comfortable about pointing out the ways in which they have it's not their discomfort. The way they have been eased into everything, greased up, made smooth through the world. And hopefully that itself is a discomfort.
What the hell is she even saying?
She's essentially saying that she's trying to teach white kids of their privilege, of that by virtue of being born white, you've had it easier. You've been smoothed and greased up for all the different barriers that you might have in your life. And black people don't get that. And she says, I hope that it brings on discomfort for my white students.
Well, it definitely will. I mean, if I heard that in the classroom, was like, my teacher told me I was racist, which happened to me. That happened to me when that was in college, so it's a little different. But like these sound like, or no, this is at college too, huh? Cornell, right?
Yes, this is
okay,
college.
Yeah, but I mean, if you hear that from your teacher, you're gonna be like, what the hell, teacher? I'm just trying to sit here, get my grade, and get out of here. Like, why are you calling me a racist right now? Of course, it's going to make everybody uncomfortable. This is how you make college totally uncomfortable. And no wonder kids are dropping out. No wonder more kids are choosing to go to different types of fields or not go to university.
Right. Listen to her sitting here reveling in the fact that she's going to start a race war within her own classroom and make people uncomfortable. It's like, what? Where are we now?
But to that point, like, college should be a place that's uncomfortable for you. Like, you should be exposed to new ideas and new ways of thinking. But that doesn't mean it shouldn't be social pressure to conform to a specific type of ideas. That's not how it should be uncomfortable. And there's a huge difference there.
Yeah, not racist ideas. You don't go to college to get told you're a racist, but that's what college is nowadays.
It is.
White kids go to college and get told that they're racist, and then they come out and they work in HR departments and they ruin this country.
Yep.
Right, and there's the social pressure to like acknowledge your racism, or else you're not one of us, or else you're not in, or else you're not virtuous and moral like we are.
Right.
And it's so backwards.
We spoke about it.
I refuse to recognize my racism. I refuse to do it. I'm not cowing to what the left says about just because I'm white. That's racist of you to assume that I'm racist because I'm white.
Now they've moved the goalpost to saying you can't say you're an anti-racist now. You can't say that you're not racist. You can't say that you're colorblind, because those in themselves have some sort of inherent subconscious racism within them.
You have to be anti-racist.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, if you say you're not racist, that's evidence that of your white fragility, that you are racist.
Right.
It's the biggest circular logic you could possibly find. But
It's going to get all the way around, and it's going to be like, no, you should be racist. It's going to like do a full circle and like, only real allies are racist, okay?
That is
it's
how
gonna
the
do
left,
a whole circle.
It's how they eat themselves. And again, we spoke about this on a previous stream. It's no longer the school to prison pipeline. It's the school to radicalism pipeline. That's all it is. That's what they're breeding radicals. It's exactly what it is. Anyways, let's continue.
But I just wanted to put out there that work is very difficult, because defensive reactions are a very real thing. I've had students be like, you've got an agenda, and really attackful. And I'm like, yeah, it's called the syllabus. Like, what did you think we were doing here? We're just coming here, just chattering. Like, it's the whole function of a course. But that agenda for him was one that said I was going to talk about racial and gender, and he just thought he was going to have a good time. And I was like, it's not called have a good time 101.
We ain't going to have a good time 101. Let me tell you.
We ain't gonna have a good time. 101.
Those white boys gonna know they're racist. All right?
So crazy.
That's crazy. I hate how every single time we watch one of these videos of some leftist woman, how come every single leftist woman is a pandering, like condescending,
right?
Horrible word.
Yeah.
Every single one is. They all act like this, like they're better than thou, like they're so much better than us, like they know so much more than all of us. They have to teach the rest of us because they just know so much. It is the most disgusting way for a woman to act. I hate it.
Right. And they're not evolved. They're not progressive. They're regressive. They are reverting back to exactly what we've come out of as a country. And yet they do it with such condescension. They're so superior. They're so self-righteous. And they're going to teach you things.
If you have to prove to everyone that you're so much better than them by the way that you talk, you're not better than them.
Right.
People show their power or their influence or their knowledge just by speaking and people recognizing it. If you have to like tell people that that's the case or show it in the way that you talk or your like psychology, your body language, like you're not that. You're obviously incredibly insecure about all the things that you believe.
Right. And here is the fun part of the leftist pedagogy. She has a second video here, and it's not about attacking white students anymore. It's about comforting and coddling black students. So let's watch this part. There's more. But there's more.
I hate this lady.
Thinking about equality and equity and being attentive to anti-Blackness, anti-Asian violence, anti-trans violence has meant that I have had to think about teaching more softly.
Okay, first off, pause. And Taylor made this point before when we first started watching this video, because Taylor and I have seen this. But anti-black, who is anti-black? Who is anti-black? Can somebody tell me? Can somebody make me a list? Submit it in the comments down below on YouTube. Tell me who is anti-black, because I've yet to meet somebody.
They'll probably say you.
They probably will say
Amala.
me. They probably will say me. And then she makes the point of being anti-Asian, which I'm going to point out the elephant in the room. Everybody get ready. Most of the attacks against Asian Americans here in America are committed by Black Americans. I know nobody wants to hear that. I know Black Lives Matter doesn't want to hear that. I know Antifa doesn't want to hear that, but it's true. It's true. It's been happening for ages.
No, it definitely is, and that's a hard reality. But if we want to fix these problems, we have to look at deeper rooted issues within these communities and all these different cities, especially in San Francisco, which seems to be the worst of it. Yeah, the whole anti-blackness thing, it's like you have a month to yourself. I mean, all of these different oppressed groups in America. Like, if you have a whole month to yourself for your group, you're probably not that oppressed. There probably isn't that much anti-blackness or anti-gay or like any of this stuff. Like, you have it pretty good. America's the least racist country in the history of the world.
And yet there is this incessant need to just coddle and make safe spaces and just cater and nurture to every single need that somebody on the left has. And it makes no sense. We are not breeding a culture of which is going to elevate people to success. We are not fixing the problems within the Black community. We are not fixing the assaults upon the Asian community. We are not fixing the problems within the trans community. We are coddling and melding our society to help these people live a life of which is not going to bring them success. We are not fixing problems. And this teacher is not fixing problems with the ideology that she is pressing on.
Instead of looking at real world problems, they just want to say, oh, here's how white people suck.
Right.
Here's what white people are doing. Here's
Right.
what institutional racism is, which isn't like, it doesn't make any sense. It's not real. Like all of these different things and just blame it on someone instead of looking for real solutions. But that's in a movement like Black Lives Matter or Antifa. Like, how do you build a movement? You get a movement by blaming someone. So then people can say, oh, we can go after this person and say, oh, it's all their fault, and they don't have to take any credit for it. So of course, this is how you build your movement. But then when like push comes to shove, it's now been a couple of years since Black Lives Matter has started and nothing's been done. Like, people, I think, are starting to wake up. There was that article just the other day of that guy in Oklahoma, I think, who was the Black Lives Matter guy, who was like, yeah, they've done nothing good for me and I'm dropping the organization.
It's Minnesota, I think. Yeah.
Minnesota, right, Minnesota. And it's like, that's going to be starting to happen all over the country, I bet. Because nothing is getting done. It's just white people suck.
And make no mistake, when they alleviate themselves and relieve themselves of one villain, which right now is white people, they move on to the next. They don't just stop there. This battle does not end when the left defeats white people or defeats the white elite or defeats capitalism. They stop there, and then they bring a new villain to flame the fire of their own revolution. It's not a transformation that when the transformation occurs, it ends. It keeps going. It keeps getting more extremes. It keeps getting more radicalized. It does not stop. So it is our time now as conservatives, and really anybody who has any sense of logic or reason, to stand up against this type of stuff, because it does not stop. It only grows.
Wait, Taylor, when you put my face in the shot, does it look like I'm in the Zoom meeting again?
Kind of. Looks like you're real jacked off in the corner.
Hey, ma'am, I have a question. Where do you get off, first of all? And how dare you? Okay.
You just wish somebody would do that during this video, but we're going to
know.
play the rest of it, and you'll find that they don't.
We're doing it now. It's fine.
And by that, I mean canceling class. Like, I think one of the biggest things I performed for my students, which is that we do not need this now. You all need to go off and be good to yourselves. And so I have canceled more class, and I'm like, and I like class because it's something to do. Like, I love it. But it's also learning to teach softly means reminding them that we also should not continue on. This is not like the institution is invested in one thing. That's why we'll get a Hallmark email after a verdict that says, students, here is a Zoom you can go to make you feel better.
What the hell is this lady saying? I have no idea.
So not only while in class does she actively make the effort to indoctrinate her students, but if the political, sociological atmosphere does not meld to that, like after the George Floyd verdict, she cancels her class so that the students don't have to partake in learning, just to make them feel better. Let them have a little bit of self-care. Let them coddle themselves into a world in which they can cope with a verdict they don't like.
No, it's really brave of her.
It's very brave.
Yeah, Cornell, of all places, when
Right.
something bad happens in the world, let's all just stay home
Right.
instead of face things head on. That's how you breed future leaders of America. Good job, lady.
Yeah, how about you keep working in the face of adversity? How about you keep working when things in the world are not going your way? How about you keep working when you hear news that you don't like?
Yeah, I remember in 2016 when Trump won the election the first time, and I was in college at that time, my sophomore year, and my classes got canceled, and I walked down the quad. I think I only had one class that still stayed on that day, and I walk out into the quad, and there's like a ton of just, like fat chicks and beta males all like holding their arms together and they're singing Kumbaya, and I just got like my MAGA hat on. I'm just like, screw you guys, you know. But it's like they don't know how to deal with real problems at all. If someone else won the election that I didn't approve of, like which has happened, I didn't cry the next day.
Right.
I didn't not go to work or cancel the things that I was doing. I'm like, all right, now we get to work. Now I get to work even harder because something hard happened in my life. It's like people should find that. There's like this quote in Game of Thrones. I don't know if any of you guys watch Game of Thrones, but it's like the only time that you can be brave is when you're afraid. And it's like that's when you make the most like dramatic changes in your life, when things are going bad, when there are things that you need to actually push forward in.
Very true. And I think what's really, really interesting about this is a great advertisement for private institutions and self-education. Because if this is happening as far as Cornell University, and this teacher does go on to say, we should be doing this in all of our classes, even the ones that are required like math and English, this needs to be the standard. And this is becoming the standard within our college institutions in this country. So something needs to be done. And whether that is you taking your tuition out of these colleges and going to private institutions, or people just refusing to go and self-educating themselves, something needs to happen.
Yeah, it does. Something needs to change. Don't give your money to your alma mater as well.
Yeah, honestly, because this is where they're all headed. This is where every single one of them is headed. Let's finish her up.
Nothing for the faculty, of course, but we can get all that stuff, but sometimes it's more of the radical, like, we don't need to do this. Go seek the comforts that exist. So I've stopped class. I had thought about being a softer person, and I'm always about basically in terms of teaching, and this will get to curricular changes, but making sure the work exists in all the classes that exist, especially the ones that are considered to be required.
You heard it here, folks. She's making sure that this sort of work exists in all classes across Cornell University.
It's a small minority, which I think actually goes very well into our next video, which is the PragerU 5-minute video, because it's talking about like you have one small, very vocal person who is able to change the course of an entire, like entire organization or entire school, whatever it is, because one person is incredibly vocal on the left.
Right. It's so important to speak up because people like her, they are so loud, they are so present in the conversation that nobody feels the need to even speak up and say something against her. And of course, she would call it racist if you did, but somebody has to do it because people like that go unchecked and then society around them starts to conform because that is the prevalent narrative. That is what happens. Anyways, so PragerU put out a 5-minute video. This is our commencement speech for all the graduates, the upcoming graduates this year.
Congratulations, graduates. Your days of indoctrination and wokeism are behind you. Your worries about being graded down because you wouldn't say America is systemically racist? Over. Your fears that you'd be socially shunned because of your failure to decry the evils of capitalism? Done. Yes, you've been liberated. Next up, the real world, where merit is rewarded, diversity of opinion is welcomed, and the free and open exchange of ideas is celebrated. Just kidding. The truth is, many of you are about to move from the ivory tower of the authoritarian left to, well, probably the glass and steel tower of the authoritarian left.
Right, and that's the jagged, rough pill to swallow right there, because that's what happens. You leave these college institutions, and then you enter a world of which exactly mimics what you learned within college.
I know. And also look at the architecture of some of these new buildings. I just have to say this.
Okay.
I'm a Western traditionalist, and look at some of these new buildings that they have that are just all steel and concrete, and they think that they're so architecturally cool, like with all the weird shapes.
Yeah.
And they look like something out of like a terrible Jackson Pollock painting that someone shattered on the ground. It's really bad.
That is a strange tangent, but it's very
well,
true.
the two buildings, it's like at least college campuses. You go to a college campus, there's no denying that almost all of them are beautiful, especially the old ones. Right. They are some of the coolest places to go to in America. Go into a big urban city now, and you will just see these ugly buildings that are being put up because they're cheap and easy to do. Bring back Western traditional architecture.
I mean, yeah, I think when you bring things back like that, especially with our art now, like look at art, it's not anywhere near reflective of where we should be as a society, and with that has gone our values. So I mean,
like
it's
fart.
Okay, well.
Anyway, keep the video going.
We're gonna keep the video going.
Today's business behemoths have also become bastions of woke thought. Terrified of discrimination lawsuits and all the time, money, and bad PR, they bend to every woke diktat that blows through their HR departments. Corporations spend millions on useless diversity compliance officers whose sole purpose is to insulate them from an ever-expanding list of discrimination claims, but most especially racism. That's why within the first few days on the job, you will likely be subjected to an orientation taught by a devotee of Ibram X. Kendi or Robin DiAngelo. During a day-long struggle session, this anti-racist consultant will inform you that if you're white, you must become less white. And if you're a person of color, a POC, you are a victim. Corporations cater to their squeakiest customers, and the authoritarian left is nothing if not squeaky. It threatens boycotts and company-destroying publicity if businesses refuse to comply with its demands.
So true. It's honestly the loudest the loudest person in the room gets to control what these corporations do, and right now the loudest person in the room is the left.
Yeah, Coca-Cola is a perfect example of that with their whole try to be less white. You guys see, all you guys still, you always comment. You say, this is Coca-Cola on here. It's not Coca-Cola. This is Woca-Cola, okay, from a skit that we did a while ago making fun of Coke and their whole thing trying to be less white. But yes, you see that at tons of huge corporations. You saw it at Disney, Coca-Cola, a bunch of other ones. So yeah, I mean, again, boycott these companies. And if you're in one of these places, you have to be someone to speak up and be a vocal minority yourself.
Right. Let's keep going.
According to a study by James Bailey and Hillary Phillips, as reported in the Harvard Business Review, a generic corporation identified as apolitical or liberal saw no blowback from a panel of prospective consumers. But a generic corporation identified as conservative saw a 33% drop in opinion, entirely driven by participants who identified as Democrats. That's why your boss will likely send out regular company-wide emails assuring you that he or she or she is on the right side of history and pledging millions of dollars in support of whatever the leftist cause du jour happens to be. And you'll be forced to echo these messages or seek employment elsewhere. Corporations, above all, are risk-averse and controversy-averse. This means that they are petrified of their own woke workers and cater to them in order to avoid media-manufactured blowback. While apolitical staffers and conservatives may constitute the majority of employees at any company, the corporate heads are driven by fear of a vocal ideological minority.
It's so true. Again, just goes to say the loudest in the room is the one who wins the battle here. And we see it time and time again with these woke companies. What was the CEO of that one company? He came out and he said, no more politics in the workplace.
Oh, that was the
Basecamp.
Yeah, Basecamp.
Basecamp.
Yeah, and he came out and said that, and then a bunch of woke employees started to leave the company, and eventually they just went back on all that. Now you can just spout your woke ideology all you want at Basecamp.
I know. You need to continue to stand up. Even if one person, it takes more. In this video, we're talking about just a vocal minority, one person, but really you got to find other people who are with you at that place and also get them to stand up. You're even strength in numbers. You will make changes if all of you stand up together.
Right.
Which is why if you offend one of your fellow employees on a message board by suggesting that there are non-sexist reasons why men outnumber women in STEM jobs, you'll be summarily fired. No! Just ask James Damore of Google. Conservatives used to believe that what happened in college stayed in college. This was a colossal mistake. Slowly but surely, college radicals have re-normalized America's institutions. Let's talk about how. Author Nassim Nicholas Taleb discusses the process of renormalization in his book, Skin in the Game. Let's say you have a family of 4, including one daughter who only eats vegan. Mom now has a choice. She can cook 2 meals, one for the non-vegan family members and one for her daughter, or she can cook 1 meal with only vegan ingredients. She decides to cook only 1 meal. This is renormalization of the family unit, which has converted from majority non-vegan to vegan. Now, says Taleb, have the family attend a barbecue with 3 other families. The host has to make the same choice Mom did, make 1 meal or make 2. This process of renormalization, the new normal, continues until broader and broader numbers have been moved by one inflexible person. The same holds true in corporations.
Don't let your kids be vegan. Give your kids meat. They need meat to grow, okay?
It's true.
It's very true.
Is that your only...
That's all I had to say about
That's
that.
your only takeaway from that. It was like much more deep.
That's all I had to say about that.
What I have to say is that it's a brilliant way to sort of give an example of how leftist ideology infiltrates society and how it grows and grows and expands and expands. And it's because we cater to people who are loud and who are following this sort of leftist ideology, this leftist doctrine, instead of calling them out and saying, no, we're not going to allow that. We're not going to let you reshape the minds of our youth. We're not going to let you teach this in college campuses. And then it just grows and it grows and it grows. And we're fostering this sort of growth.
Say no to veganism.
Oh my gosh.
Just kidding. If you want to be vegan, do your thing.
But don't force the world to adapt
Don't
to
force
your
the world
taste
to
or
be
your
vegan.
preferences.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a perfect example. That's all I have to say.
Oh,
Let's
that's a
keep
good
going.
example.
All it takes, according to physicist Serge Gallum, is a tipping point. A certain percentage of the population joining an inflexible movement and demanding change from a less than motivated majority. Gallum puts that number at approximately 20%. So, here's the good news. Renormalization can work in reverse, too. Here's how. Find a group of like-minded employees. Make demands that a majority of employees agree with. Be inflexible and be loud. Band together to resist the intrusions of the radical left. Donald McNeil of the New York Times lost his job because he used the N-word in describing why not to use the N-word. 150 woke staffers at the Times complained to the editors and got him canned. But there are 1,200 employees at the Times. What if even 200 of those employees had pushed back? You can lead the pushback. In fact, you should. Now, that may seem like a lot to ask. Why should a CEO listen to his youngest employees? Fair question. But here's the answer. They already do. It's 23-year-old woke staffers who are forcing these corporations to the left. It's going to take 23-year-old non-left staffers to move them back. That means being smart. It means not making dumb mistakes on social media. It means building alliances with those who aren't motivated primarily by politics. But just as you were in college, you are now in opposing territory. And that requires fighting back in strategic ways. Be an advocate for truth and a warrior for liberty. Welcome to the real world and the real fight. I'm Ben Shapiro for Prager University.
The last part he was talking, I almost felt like we were on an episode of Survivor.
Why?
Like
they're
building
tug-of-warring?
alliances and banding together. I do like the line that he said about being inflexible. I think that's a really important thing. If anyone knows me in my real life, Taylor, Amala, you guys know me.
Yes.
I can be very stubborn. I am a pretty stubborn person, and if I have an idea or I think that I'm right about something, I don't budge very easily on that thing. And
No, he
I
does
don't really
not.
compromise on those kind of things. That's just how I am. But because I am that way, I think I've actually gotten pretty far in life because I am someone who did not compromise. So when you're in one of these situations where you see leftists or people trying to dominate or control you, you have to be someone who is also inflexible and will not compromise to their demands. If they're telling you things about critical race theory and they want to give half of the executive positions to women just because they're women, be inflexible and
Right.
tell them, no, we're not going to do that. If they want to put CRT into your school, be inflexible and tell them that you won't do it. Stop cowing down to these people and acting like, for lack of a better word, a conservative, because conservatives for a long time have been super soft. All right, I'm done with being super soft.
There you go. Now, we spoke about this yesterday. We went over a commencement speech that a girl did at a high school, and she spoke about being pro-choice and made her whole speech about abortion, and Will made the argument that conservatives should do the same. So this is our conservative commencement speech. Will, are you satisfied with this?
Yes.
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 You feel good about it?
I think I could have done it better than Ben, but Ben did a terrific job. He did a bang-up
Ben
job.
did a terrific job. We do have one more story. Do we want to go into that story today?
What is the story?
This story is Jazz Jennings, a transgender young woman being featured on Variety magazine on the front page. Are you familiar with Jazz Jennings?
Do I look like I'd be familiar with Jazz Jennings?
No. But you might be.
She's trans?
Yes, she is.
Wait,
So-
she's a woman now?
Yes.
So he's trans.
Yes.
Okay. Got it.
Accurate.
Got it.
So Jazz Jennings made a splash really in the cultural scheme of things by transitioning at a very young age. Jazz Jennings identified himself as a girl from really as early as he could speak, and his parents went along with it and allowed him to transition to jazz, and was rewarded with a show called I Am Jazz, which I believe ran for about 6 seasons and is going to be revving up for a 7th season this coming year. So now Jazz is being featured on Variety magazine, the front page, as this beacon of light for the transgender community, but not just the transgender community, the young transgender community.
Which is the worst thing to push people towards, is the young transgender community. Right. I mean, we talked about this all the time with the suicide rates and mental health problems. This is sick and disgusting. It shouldn't be done.
So Jazz talks in length about his transition to becoming a girl. And this is an old article I want to show you from when I Am Jazz was first coming out. So from the moment we're born, our gender identity is no secret. We're either a boy or a girl. Gender organizes our world into pink or blue. As we grow up, most of us naturally fit into our gender roles. Girls wear dresses and play with dolls. For boys, it's pants and trucks. But for some children, what's between their legs doesn't match what is between their ears. What an interesting way to put that. They insist that they were born into the wrong body. They are transgender children diagnosed with gender identity disorder. And to their parents, they insist that this is not a phase.
It's not a phase, Mom.
This article's from
I'm a different
2007
gender.
too, by the way.
Yes.
Can you even still say that they're diagnosed? They don't say that anymore. I think
No,
Amala
I
said
don't
it.
think.
No.
Yeah, I don't think there is a DSM diagnostic specifically for this sort of body dysmorphia anymore. Now, that I could be wrong in saying that, but I believe there was many discussions had, and that was altered.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't
Okay.
know.
Well, let's see. A phase is called a phase because it's just that. It ends, and this is not an ending. This is getting stronger, says Renee Jennings, who is also Jazz's mom. The Jennings asked 2020 not to disclose their real name in order to protect their identity of their 6-year-old transgender daughter, Jazz.
6 years old.
6 years old.
It's like you got a little girl and she likes the color, or you got a little boy and he likes the color pink, and they're like, yep, she's a chick now. We're going to make her a girl.
Yeah,
Let's
like,
do
it's
it.
getting stronger. It's not going anywhere. It's like, why do you think it's getting stronger? Because of how you're...
Yeah, you're treating them like a girl.
Right. You are facilitating their dive into this sort of progression, this transgender progression.
I'd be curious to know, this is kind of a new phenomenon, and so kids haven't fully grown into it, but I would be curious to know if children can sue their parents for damages for this transgender stuff. Like, let's say I'm, a 6-year-old kid and my mom's like pushing me to be a woman or
Right.
a girl, and then I get older and I'm like, this is so dumb. Why did I do this? I was a kid. Could I sue my parents? I would sue my parents.
Yeah.
For sure I'd sue my parents. That would ruin my life potentially. I
mean,
wonder if that's a possibility that people can do if you're allowed to go back and sue your parents.
you know
for
they
that.
won't do it because that goes against woke leftist ideology, but it should be something that is done because this is very much wrong. Jazz, as they call him, came out to his parents as young as 5 years old in kindergarten, and the parents decided to facilitate this sort of idea.
Yeah, the parents should not be doing that whatsoever. It is the parents' fault for allowing that to happen, you sick parents. Your kid will tell you all sorts of ridiculous things all the time. That's what kids do. Kids like all sorts of different stuff. I remember my brother and his friend, they're 4 years older than me, they held me down and then they painted my toenails.
Right.
And that was horrible for me. I'm not saying I liked it. I cried when they did that. I was a little kid. But it was something that they did. And it's not like because I had painted toenails that I was going to then say that I'm a girl. My mom was going to say, oh, you're a girl now. Those things don't happen. You shouldn't be allowed to do that as a parent.
And they say one of the things that tuned them in to Jazz actually being a girl is that when the parents would praise Jazz and say, Jazz, good job, good boy, that he would correct them and say, I'm a girl. And that's what tipped them in to their son being a girl.
Good boy?
Yep.
Like a dog?
Yes. Yes. And
Good
Jazz would say, good
Jazz.
girl.
Is that that's what it says in the article?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Do people say that to their kids? I've never heard
I
someone
guess
say
they-
that's
they do.
That's what you say to your dog.
They do. Now, there's this whole narrative on the left, and Jazz echoes this. She did do an interview with Variety. It's a full, long video. You can check it out at variety.com if you want to subject yourself to that. But Jazz says that really the right wants to deprive transgender people of adequate health care and deprive them of leading normal lives within our society. And by no means is that the case. If anything, the right, the conservatives, are the ones truly advocating to protect transgender people, because we have seen time and time again through studies that we've talked about actually on this program, if you want to go and check it out, that transitional surgery, hormone blockers, hormone replacement therapy has done no good for the transgender community. It has not altered their rate of depression or decline in mental facilities. It has not altered their rate of suicidal ideation at all. And conservatives on the other end of things are advocating for long-term treatment to help transgender people and people who are suffering with body dysmorphia come to terms with the actual body of which they were born in. And there's been no effort to do this within the transgender community, within our medical professions. There's been no effort to withstand long-held treatment for people with this issue.
Yeah, they're talking about like conservatives want to take away healthcare from these people. I think it's actually the opposite. I think conservatives want to give healthcare to these people. When we did that 60 Minutes thing, one of the most shocking things about it with all these detransitioners is how quickly the doctors or psychologists, whatever, would tell them that, oh yeah, you're definitely trans. Go get this hormonal therapy or go get the, snipped off. Like, you should have more healthcare in the sense of like you talking to more doctors or talking to more professionals or psychiatrists, whatever. Like, you should have more healthcare. They're only referring to the healthcare. They want it to be easier for them to basically not even have to talk to a doctor and just say, here, let's chop this off.
Yes, there was a young man in that 60 Minutes special that said he had 2 visits with a doctor before being placed on hormone replacement therapy. You have more treatments and more visits with a doctor before you get a nose job. It's insane that they're allowing people to mutilate their bodies, to alter their bodies in a way which is really unable to reconstruct back to its normal form with only 2 visits.
No, it's totally ridiculous. Yeah, totally unfair. And it's the parents pushing it.
It is. And Jazz goes on to say that we should be elevating all transgender stories, but that doesn't seem to translate when it comes to those who have detransitioned. And you have organizations like GLAAD that report to people that they are upholding LGBTQ plus people, that they are the ones really fighting out here on the front lines for those type of people. Yet they have put out statements saying that if you elevate the stories of detransitioning transgender people, you are hurting the transgender community.
Which is the exact opposite. If you really want to be honest and truthful, then you shouldn't be hiding the truth. You shouldn't be hiding information. If you want people to make adequate decisions because they really do feel this way, then you should let them have all of the available information to them so that they can make the right decision. If you don't have all the right information to make a decision, then you're going to make an ill-fated decision. You need to know all the facts before you do this. And the fact that people are hiding it is just shows the deviousness and evil of the left.
Yeah, if I was a child right now struggling with gender confusion, I went on the internet and searched up transgenderism, I would find a bunch of articles saying how great it is to go through sex reassignment surgery, how great it is to have hormone blockers, how we should be pushing for that as a society to help these people feel more comfortable within our world. I would not find stories of detransitioning. I would not find studies of how high the suicide rate is with people who are transgender. I would not find studies of how depressed people with transgenderism are. And it is so crazy to me that the media and social media can curate the truth to whatever they see fit.
I just remember being a kid. I'll finish with this.
Yes.
All of us can probably agree with the same about, like, I watched Lord of the Rings. I wanted to be Legolas. I read dinosaur books and I wanted to, be a dinosaur hunter. Like, I did all of these different things. And it wasn't just me, like, thinking about it in my head. I was like obsessed with these things for a little bit of time. Like a few months at a time, I'd be obsessed with animals or dinosaurs or medieval stuff. Like, that's what kids do. And now, because it's being pushed in the media, kids are being obsessed with, probably for that short amount of time, because it's pushed on them in a show or whatever, that they want to be trans. And that's pushed on them for a little bit. It's like something that you'll grow out of as a little kid. You see something, you get obsessed with it as a kid, and then you grow out of it. That's how it is for all of us.
Yep. It is purely born out of your environment. And if there's anything that we want to do on this podcast is to sort of function as conservatives who are out here speaking our values, giving our traditions. And we actually do know that there are plenty of kids, whether that's middle school, high school, that watch this program. And, we want to be that sort of influence to you that keeps you on the straight and narrow and tells you the way the truth really is.
That's exactly right. That's why you go to PragerU.com, you watch all our videos, and you get on the truth and narrow, or the straight and narrow truth. Okay?
Straight and narrow truth.
You get on that narrow truth straight, all right? It's good for you.
And if you like our videos, please like and subscribe. Hit the little bell button to get notifications when we post our videos, because as conservatives, sometimes we get censored on this platform. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, wherever you would like to follow us. Will is at the Will Wood. I am at Amala Epinobi. Taylor, I don't know if you want to give your social media handles.
At Taylor Trindle on Instagram. Find me. Stalk me.
There we go. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll come back to you tomorrow with more stories.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Peace.